simple. Think of a time and a place, hit rewind, and you're there. Time and a place. Time and a place.
Hey, what's up? You guys know that time travel to me is one of the coolest themes in a story. I think that's pretty easy to notice, right? I get hooked on the twists, the connections, the mysteries. Man, it's no wonder my channel is all made of one story about that. And as you guys also know that I love making assumptions. In this video, we'll see how it would be if our big boy there controlled the infamous return by death. For those who don't know much about what it's about, it's like this. Our protagonist in ReZero has the power to go back in time every time he dies. But even being a very strong power, he can't control to which moment in the past he returns. The save point moment is still a big thorn in his side, so much so that it affects him a lot in Arc 4. Rem had as many memories as her name eaten, and as we know, Subaru tried to go back in the past to prevent Rem from going down another path. But the problem is that the save point had already changed. Subaru couldn't go back further in time to prevent Rem from getting screwed. But in this video, I, the great Baru, will allow Subaru to literally turn into a time machine. Yes, Subaru will become what many say, a car.
Subaru!
No, not that one. Hell yeah. And how will this story work? Well, let's go. Just like in the DeLorean, Subaru will be able to go back in time and choose which moment he wants to return to. But instead of having just one save point, he'll have as many as he wants. But the only detail here is that he'll still only go back to the past and not to the future. For example, if he's in Arc 4 and has set several save points in Arc 3, he'll be able to go back to anyone he marked there. But if he does, he'll have to redo everything up to where he was before. He can set as many saves as he wants, but he still can only go back to the past. I even thought about the possibility of him going to the future too, but guys, trust me, it gets way too confusing, man. For real, Satella still remains as the one who summoned him, but now, whoever controls 100% of the power is Subaru. Now what's the problem, guys? Just like in old games, you can set the save point either 1 second in the past or 1 day in the past. I'll imagine Subaru setting it at the moment he thinks is best to return. So forget the guy setting a save point every second, okay? Otherwise the guy literally becomes an omnipresent being. But Baru, you could allow him to only return to the save points that appear in the anime. Oh, what fun would that be, right, man? Of course, doing it this way that I'm doing gives way more work, but it's way more interesting, man. And if the video title is him controlling 100% of the power, that's what our big boy will do, dude. It's him who will choose the ideal moment. Will just this small detail of who controls the power in the long run change the story? We don't know, but what many know is that you who are watching this video will subscribe to the channel. Everyone knows, dude. Don't lie. Don't lie to your crush. She knows, huh? And just like in the anime, to go back in time, he has to die. And every time he returns to, the miasma smell increases. The miasma is directly linked to the witch, but since in this story the little witch is off, I'll consider the miasma as part of the Shadow Garden. For those who don't know, the Shadow Garden is a dimension where Subaru goes after he dies a few times. And from what it seems, this dimension is exclusive to him and Satella. In the anime, it was practically cut, but in the novel, it's canon. And it's in this dimension that Subaru will set his save points. I think that makes it really cool. In the main story, Satella touches him and increases the miasma smell. But since in this story she won't do practically anything, it will be Subaru who increases his own smell. Every time he sets the checkpoint or returns from death, the smell increases. In this video, I will try to imagine what the story would be like up to Arc 4, the Witch's Arc. Things beyond that, like Arc 5 and Arc 6 for now, I won't do, but if you guys want it a lot, I can bring a part 2 of this video covering those 2 arcs, okay? Because in this video here, it won't fit, man. The thing will be an hour long. Before we see how the beginning of the story would be, we have to know how Return by Death really works. As many of you know, Return by Death was the power given to Subaru by Satella, the Witch of Envy. This power allows the user to return to a specific point in time, but for it to be activated, the user has to die. As already shown in the anime, who controls the save points is Satella. Satella knows the ideal moment for Subaru to return, so he can keep advancing until he reaches the final goal, which apparently is to free her. But now comes the problem, guys. Apparently, the choice of save points is made based on the possibility of Subaru helping Emilia. Now, why does Satella do that? We still don't know. In several moments of the anime, this is clear, but the biggest proof is in one of the alternate routes, the Sloth route. In that wonderful route, Subaru runs away with Rem and has 2 kids with her. But what's the problem, guys? The author already confirmed that if Subaru dies in that route, even if he dies of old age, he still returns to the apple cart before running away. My god, dude. That moment is the watershed. Save Emilia or run away with Rem. If Subaru runs away with Rem, the last save point will still be that one, no matter how many years pass. Dude, Teppei is evil, man. I'm telling you, this guy is evil, man. But since Satella is retired in this story, who will control the save points will be Subaru. And since the control is 100%, Subaru will also be able to tell others that he returns from death without suffering any penalty. So forget Satella going there, squeezing his little heart or killing others, okay? It's over. Folks, remembering that this story is just my vision, okay? It can be totally different in the author's hands, but in my story, he can tell no problem. Now, if this will change anything or not, we'll find out. Subaru is suddenly summoned, and just like in the anime, he is amazed by what he sees. It was really the isekai world he loved, just like in the stories he knew on Earth. The first thing he encounters there is our good old apple seller. As always, he gets pissed at Subaru for not having money, and since Subaru had nothing to do, he leaves. He walks around the city, and just like in the anime, he tries to save that person, but soon a night does the job. And logically, Subaru complains, right? After all, he is summoned and has no power apparently. In theory, right, in his head, he should be the hero, right? But nothing happened. After walking a bit more, he enters an alley and is robbed by 3 bandits that we're tired of seeing here on the channel, dude. Before he starts getting beaten, Felt passes by him and bolts with Emilia's insignia. No one understands anything, but since Subaru was very confident, he tries to face the guys. But as we know, the 3rd bandit had 2 knives, and Subaru ends up getting beaten. While he was getting beaten, Emilia appears and saves his life. As usual, right, the guy logically falls in love right away, right, man? Emilia says she had her insignia stolen, and logically, right, Subaru wants to help. They end up walking for hours around the city looking for Felt. They finally find Felt's hut, but since they took too long to arrive, Old Rom had already been knocked out, and just like Old Rom, right, the next would be Subaru and Emilia, because Elsa was waiting. At that moment, in a brief sigh, Subaru ends up dying. He enters a dimension known as Shadow Garden, where he meets a humanoid form, full of shadows. She gets close to Subaru and says right in his little ear,
I leave everything in your hands. I know you can do it.
Subaru at first gets really scared, but in that dimension, it was very comfortable for him. He for some reason felt really good there. After Satella leaves, Subaru notices something in the Shadow Garden, a light showing what would be his first save point. When Subaru touches that light, in the blink of an eye, he returns to reality. Once again, he sees the apple seller yelling in front of him. At the moment, Subaru is weirded out and takes time to believe. He was really repeating the day. He sat in the street corner and thought. He realized that all that had already happened. He remembered how he had lost a lot of blood, and remembered the girl he was also trying to help. And just like in the anime, he runs to the hut to arrive before everything happens. Before entering, he sets a safe point at Old Rom's hut door. After all, he didn't want to have to walk all that again if he died again. Inside, he ends up finding Old Rom, but alive. He chats with him and shows himself as the guy who wants to buy Emilia's insignia. He waits for Felt to arrive, but soon after Elsa also arrives. He had no idea that Elsa had killed him at that moment, so he hadn't reacted yet. As usual, he tries to buy Emilia's insignia, but just like in the main story, he says he wanted to return it to the owner. He was going to buy it smoothly, but he screwed up by saying what he wanted the insignia for. Right after that, Elsa tries to kill Subaru. Felt helps him, but it doesn't work. A few minutes later, everyone was done for by Elsa. Subaru returns once again to the Shadow Garden and thinks. He could choose between 2 save points now, the apple card or Old Rom's house. He was questioning if he really wanted to help Rom, Felt, and Emilia. He was weak, useless against Elsa. He could very well sell the phone, right, as Old Rom said, and live a quiet life. But even so, he decides to help Emilia. It was too heavy a burden on his mind to carry all that, knowing he could have done something. He chooses to help and chooses the save point at Old Rom's hut. He repeats the same steps and buys Emilia's insignia, saying it was for his personal collection. Elsa accepts the answer and leaves annoyed. Later, Emilia finds Old Rom's hut, and Subaru introduces himself to her. He tells her that she saved him from being killed by the bandits, but she doesn't remember that. He tries to explain to her that he can go back in time, but she finds it very funny. Anyway, even though she never saw that boy, she feels very grateful. Her insignia was finally back in her hands, and Emilia could even report the arrest of Felt and Rom for theft, but Subaru says she's just a kid trying to survive. Emilia ends up accepting Subaru's request not to arrest them, and asks him how she should repay him. He just wanted to know her name, and that's what he has. The name of his savior was Emilia. Emilia ends up asking where he comes from, and he says he's not from there, and says he doesn't even know how to read or write their language. And since Puck saw that Subaru was telling the truth, Emilia invites Subaru to go to her house, and he accepts. Reinhard was never called, Felt would never go to the royal selection, and all Subaru lost was just the phone. No blood, no deaths. Already at the mansion, Subaru meets Rem, Ram, and Roswal. Roswal invites Subaru to dinner and asks him what he desires there, and Subaru replies that he just wants to work there while he stays near Emilia. And Roswal agrees, right, logically. Different from the main story where Subaru meets Beatrice right away, right, to be healed. This time he only meets Beatrice much later. Ram said that Beatrice was the mansion's librarian, and that it was only possible to access her room if you guessed the right door. Subaru, hearing that, chooses one of the doors randomly, and as we know, it was the right door. Subaru ends up meeting Beatrice and chats a bit with her, but as we know, she treats him really badly anyway. After Subaru got Roswal's approval, he marks a safe point at the mansion, and that ends up increasing the miasma smell. Rem soon notices this increase and warns Roswal. Subaru was learning the mansion chores while being watched by Ram and Rem, just as Roswal ordered. On one of the trips to Arlon Village, Subaru ends up getting cursed, and he dies sleeping. He's suddenly sent to the Shadow Garden and even thinks he's dreaming, but soon realizes he died sleeping. He chooses the mansion save point and returns once again. He didn't know the reason for his death, but he knew it was while sleeping. He repeats the same actions. He gets along with the folks, right? Works fine. And just like in the anime, he stays awake. But he gets really sick because of the curse again. He even seeks help in the mansion, but someone ends up killing him with the sound of chains. Subaru ends up dying again and he's getting more and more tired. At that moment, he already knew he was getting bad even before someone appeared to kill him. He returns once again and asks Beatrice if there's something that kills someone from a distance or while sleeping, and she tells him it would be something like a curse. With that answer from Beatrice, he runs desperately to warn Emilia that the mansion was going to be attacked. Someone was going to show up there and assassinate everyone. That was his vision. But the way Subaru was talking, Emilia was ignoring him. She wasn't understanding what he was saying. She thought Subaru was going crazy because he said he returns from death, said he had already lived the future. She thought the guy was nuts. And since Emilia wasn't paying attention to him, he runs to tell Roswaal. Since Roswaal is the mansion owner, Subaru thought it was smart to tell him because, right, Roswaal could do something, right? After Subaru tells that he saw the future and knew shit was going to happen, Roswaal smiles at him and tells him to wait a second in his room. Roswaal serves tea made by Ram, and after Subaru drinks, he passes out. He wakes up tied up while Roswaal stares at him. Just as Roswaal's gospel said, Subaru was capable of restarting, and with Subaru confirming that, it awakened enormous curiosity in Roswaal. Would that help Roswaal reach his goal faster? Roswaal asks how he manages to do that and starts torturing him. Having Subaru as a tool was perfect for Roswaal. A power like that was far superior to any magic he knew. And even Subaru saying he can only return if he dies, Roswaal wanted more information. How does Subaru return? How does Subaru feel? What is the moment he chooses like? Roswaal's curiosity was enormous. It was greedy. Subaru, in a moment of desperation, bites his own tongue and kills himself. Roswaal gets desperate after all. He wanted Subaru to talk more and tell him everything. And since Roswaal is useless at healing magic, he can't prevent Subaru from dying and going back in time. Returning once again to that save point, Subaru decides it's not a good idea to tell about return by death. It would be enormous danger for others to know. He could be caught again. Roswaal was the biggest proof of that, and before Subaru restarts the day, he tells Roswaal that he changed his mind. He would only stay a few days at the mansion and then leave. Subaru was starting to test the events. There was still an assassin in the mansion and a possible curse getting him. This time, he decides not to do anything and just hides in the room until the assassination day. Subaru saves himself from his assassination day, but instead of him dying, what happens is that Rem dies in his place by the same curse. He didn't understand very well, but connecting the dots, Subaru realizes that both Rem and he have a lot of similarity in the events. The only difference is that the assassin didn't appear, and just like in the anime, Ram gets suspicious of Subaru and decides to kill him. He hadn't made a deal with Beatrice, and he ends up being killed by Ram. Returning to the save point, Subaru decides to repeat the loop and go with Rem to the village and stay awake. But this time, on the day he gets sick again from the curse, he decides to set a save point there too. He wanted to be sure who was killing him and who was killing the mansion folks. On the second attempt, he hears the sound of chains again and sees where it's coming from. Dodging narrowly, he sees who killed him before. It was Rem herself. He thought she was going to kill everyone in the mansion and asks her the reason for that. But Rem replies that she was only going to kill Subaru because he is too suspicious. The miasma smell on him was very intense, and she knew that smell was linked to the witch in some way. Subaru, hearing that, soon understands. He has to gain their trust and also has to prevent the village curse. He even tries to run from Rem, but he gets hit in the head and dies. In the Shadow Garden, he decides to return to the initial mansion, save and work well until people decide not to kill him. Meanwhile, he had to know who that person was who placed the curse in the village. Just like in the anime, he works too much and tries to build a reputation for everyone there. Obviously right, he gets sick and Emilia manages to help him. Since Emilia convinced Rem to chill with Subaru, she decides not to kill him. Now it's safe. Seeing that things were much calmer, Subaru marks a save point after that day. He still had to know who was cursing him. In the village, he is touched by everyone and bitten by the dog. In the mansion, Beatrice checks him and sees that he was really cursed, and soon after, he is healed. With that, he discovers that who caused it was the damn dog. He still had the possibility to go back in time and go after the dog, but he didn't want to throw that life away. He warns the mansion folks that the village dog was the problem. Subaru and Rem run there to save the kids who were being kidnapped. Just like in the anime, Subaru manages without problems to help the folks, but he gets bitten too much, and Rem stays there to finish off all the dogs. Subaru wakes up in a bed, and Puck says that Rem stayed alone facing all the May beasts. He runs out to help Rem after all. She would die if she did everything alone, and just to be sure, he marks a save point before leaving. Ram also goes to help him, and they manage to save Rem with Roswaal's help, who was also there. The village was saved, Subaru changed Rem's ideal, and everything became calm. After some time of Subaru working calmly at the mansion, using various save points, a carriage arrives there and the presence of Emilia is requested at the royal selection. Subaru meets Wilhelm and Felix. He bugs Emilia to go with her, and after she refuses so much, she ends up letting him go too. Different from the main story where Subaru blew up his mana gate, in this one, he didn't do that. He just went with Emilia out of pure insistence. Already in the capital, Emilia tells Subaru that she will participate in an important ceremony, and he should wait for her to return. And as we know, Subaru can't keep still, right man? The guy can't. He's incapable. He marks a save point and runs after Emilia. Already inside the castle, Subaru ends up meeting Reinhard, the Sword Saint. Subaru knew his story and admired the strength Reinhard had. He wanted to be like him, and even being the first time they see each other, Reinhard felt really good talking to Subaru. It was such a natural conversation that the two would become friends very easily. At the royal selection, Subaru screws up by making Emilia embarrassed in front of everyone, and not just her, but him too. Julius also gets pissed and asks for the famous X1 from him, and the dummy accepts. Subaru gets beautifully beaten by Julius and ends up all busted in bed. Emilia gives him a good scolding and he returns to saying the same things he said to her, that he always returns from death, that he always has the pain of everything repeating, and Emilia as always doesn't understand anything. After all man, the guy is saying something impossible like that. It even crosses his mind the possibility of killing himself and returning to the save point before going to the castle to undo the screw up, right? But he still valued his life, and that's why he doesn't do it. His power was really very powerful, but he only wanted to die as a last resort. After a day recovering, Subaru returns to the mansion with Emilia. Since he didn't break his mana gate, he returns with her there. And since Subaru returned with Emilia, he didn't find out about the whale attack. And just like in the Pride route, Crush and her group end up dying. And just like Crush, Otto also ends up dying. The whale's anger was never negotiated by Subaru, so Otto was never rescued either. Arriving at the mansion, they realize that Roswell had already left, so they stay alone there. A few days pass, and Subaru's relationship with Emilia even improves a bit. She ended up forgiving his screw up of exposing himself there. But shortly after, a villager arrives running to Roswell's mansion, warning that the village was being attacked. The culprits were people with black robes, who looked a lot like the witch cult. Subaru is shocked and Emilia too, but soon they run to try to help somehow. Subaru marked a save point at the mansion just in case, and ran to the village. Ram stayed at the mansion to stop the intruders, while Subaru, Emilia, and Rem run to the village. When they arrived there, many people had died. Subaru is shocked to see so many bodies on the ground, fallen next to each other. Emilia and Rem use magic and spirit arts to kill the cultists, and Puck also gives that support. However, after Rem feels something bad in her connection with Ram, she realizes that Ram was in trouble. She was facing Betelgeuse alone at the mansion. Rem runs to help, but it was too late. Ram had already died. Emilia arrived there too, and Betelgeuse joined several of his fingers. Emilia even manages to kill some, but there were so many invisible hands that she had no chance either. Emilia also died. Puck, enraged, transforms into the End Beast and wipes out everyone. It was even left to Subaru, who didn't do a damn thing. In the Shadow Garden, Subaru thinks about what he could do. Facing the attack just with the mansion folks wouldn't work, and that's when he decides to call Reinhard. He had a save there in the capital before going to the castle. He returned to that save and asked Reinhard for help against the cult. Subaru said he knew the attack would happen after a few days, and since Reinhard is a hero, he accepts to help Subaru. Since he went back there, Subaru didn't screw up making Emilia embarrassed in front of everyone, and it was smooth between them. Reinhard accompanies Subaru and Emilia and waits for the ambush. Everyone was positioned, waiting for the cult to attack. Without much problem, Ram, Rem, and Emilia defended the village, while Subaru and Reinhard beat Betelgeuse. Reinhard without problem managed to finish Goose, and Subaru finished him off for good. Subaru thanked Reinhard for the help, and he said it was an honor. Reinhard returns to the capital and the folks receive the message that Roswell was at the sanctuary waiting for them. Logically, Subaru was wary, right? After all, he doesn't trust Roswell, but even so, he accompanies the folks. Of course, before leaving, he set a save point, right? And since only Rem would stay at the mansion, Petra is accepted as a new maid, and the rest head to the sanctuary. Arriving at the sanctuary, they meet Garfield, Ryuzu, and the demi-humans who were there. Inside the hut, they find Roswell all busted on the sidewalk. It's revealed that to leave now, they need to overcome the infamous sanctuary trials, and only those authorized to enter the tomb can take the trial. Emilia is indicated to free the folks and tries to take the trial. Since Subaru soon hears a startled scream from her, he runs inside the tomb, and just like her, he is also authorized to take the trial. He ends up meeting Echidna, and she sees that he has the sloth gene. Subaru overcomes the first trial, but Emilia doesn't. Emilia wasn't managing at all. That night alone, Subaru and Roswell were talking, and Roswell reveals that he knew the cult was going to attack, and Subaru gets pissed. After all, Roswell did nothing, right? Subaru knew Roswell was a bad character, but didn't know the guy was almost an accomplice of the cult. Ram stops Subaru from punching him in the mouth. Ending the conversation, Roswell tells Subaru that he has to ask that question to Beatrice. He doesn't understand very well what it would be, but since he can test if what Roswell said was true or not, he accepts to go back to the mansion again, and before leaving, he marks another save point, and that ends up calling Ryuzu and Garfield's attention because of the smell. Arriving at the mansion, at the end of the day, Subaru ends up finding Rem and Petra dead on the floor. Before he could act, Elsa guts him in one go. The gut hunter was once again tormenting the folks' lives. Subaru once again returns to the Shadow Garden and thinks which safe point he would go to this time. He didn't want to believe that, again, Elsa was there killing people. But if he did nothing, Rem, Petra, and Beatrice would die. He returns to the safe inside the sanctuary and thinks of a way to help Emilia and the mansion folks. He watches Emilia trying to overcome the trials, but he couldn't help her in any way. His trial was different from hers. Already in the hut, Subaru offers to take the trials in Emilia's place, right, to help the folks. But that ends up upsetting Emilia, and that makes Garfield suspicious of Subaru. That same night, Subaru is interrogated by Garfield to reveal what he was plotting. The miasma smell on him was enormous and comparable to Sin Archbishop level. Subaru said he had no connection to the cult, but even so, he is imprisoned. In prison, he couldn't free himself, and he bites his own tongue to return once again. Revealing about return by death was a mistake, and saying he would take the trials was also a mistake. This time, he goes much further back in time. He returns to that save before going to the sanctuary, and with that, he tells Rem, Petra, and Beatrice to go with him and the folks to the sanctuary. He couldn't do everything alone. In the main story, he had Otto to help him, but this time, he doesn't. He manages to convince Rem and Petra, but Beatrice was very difficult. He suddenly remembers that Roswell had commented about that question. Subaru asks Beatrice what that would be, and she asks him if he is the person she has been waiting for. Of course, he had no idea what she was talking about, but since he was desperate to get everyone out of there, he says yes. Everyone leaves the mansion, and everyone goes to the sanctuary. Arriving there, Roswell is weirded out to have more people than he expected. He questions Subaru, and Subaru says it was better that way. In secret, Subaru questions Roswell about Beatrice also having a gospel, and he reveals that Echidna gave it to them, but only to them. The book shows the future in a certain way, and he follows it to the letter. Days pass, and Emilia was having difficulty overcoming the trials, and with that she has her memories freed by Puck. With that she manages to recover the memories she had lost. She overcomes the first trial with Subaru's support, and that makes her even more confident. Everything was going right. Subaru had managed the contract with Beatrice, and Echidna blocked his access to the trial, but no problem. Emilia would make it. Emilia wouldn't stay in Andreth because Subaru was there, and since Roswell followed his gospel, he saw that it had to snow. And since Emilia wasn't making it snow, he does it himself. The rabbits appear and start scaring the folks. And since Beatrice, Rem, Ram, and Emilia were there, they managed to finish off the rabbits without much difficulty. Emilia finalizes the last trial, and the folks leave the sanctuary. Roswell keeps the Tome of Wisdom hidden with him, and wonders how Subaru managed to avoid all that so easily. Elsa and Meili didn't find anyone at the mansion because there was no one there and ended up leaving after. Subaru and his group managed to return safely to the mansion, which didn't catch fire, and Subaru is named Knight by Emilia, and even gets some recognition for having foreseen the cult attack and managed to help Emilia in the trials. Folks, obviously this story can have many changes, but that's what I managed to imagine if he controlled the return, okay? I don't think he would kill himself for no reason like in the Casaneru if, but I think he would abuse it a little because he would manage to help more that way. But so, what did you think of this story? Leave it in the comments. I want to know your opinion. And even if everything goes wrong, you can always start from zero again.